One of Australia's neighbours is watching the election campaign more closely than most. The tiny island nation of Nauru is still smarting after being passed over by the federal government as the site for a refugee processing centre. The Prime Minister's made it clear she wants East Timor to be the location. But Tony Abbott says if he wins the election, he'll relaunch the Pacific solution. As Kieran McKechnie reports, whatever the outcome, it's of critical interest to the people of Nauru.
They're ready, willing and able.
We're ready. Infrastructure's in place.
So the Nauruan president can't understand why Julia Gillard would bypass his country and initiate talks with East Timor. Marcus Stevens says he'd be disturbed if the Australian Prime Minister was avoiding Nauru simply for political reasons.
That would be a worry. It would take a very strong leader to come out and say this is the best, not what we think is best politically.
He says he'd consider signing the UN Refugees Convention if it'd make a deal with Nauru more palatable to the Australian government.
That was one thing that was, it seems to be a big obstacle.
The centre's former manager says Nauru got a bad rap in the asylum seeker debate, which it doesn't deserve.
There was a lot of bad stigma, a lot of bad vibes about the whole thing, but on the ground, I could say the facilities that were provided by the governments were first class.
There was a lot of this Nauru bashing, which I personally didn't appreciate.
The Nauru Detention Centre has been sitting idle since it was closed by the Rudd government in 2008. The facility was a big money spinner for the small, struggling Pacific Island nation, which is why locals are so keen for it to reopen. The closure of the detention centre had a huge impact on the Nauruan economy, with at least 10% of the population directly affected. With their livelihoods potentially once again in Australia's hands, the people of Nauru are keenly watching the federal election campaign unfold. It's a domestic election issue that's reaching far into the Pacific. Kieran McKechnie, ABC News, Nauru.